Everyone thought this German Shepherd was too dangerous to save. He had attacked handlers, destroyed his kennel, and growled at anyone who came near. He was seconds away from being put down. But then, a 7-year-old girl walked up to his cage, alone, and did the unthinkable. What happened next? No one could have predicted it. This isn't just a story about a dog. It's a story about trauma, healing, and a bond so powerful it silenced an entire shelter. If you've ever believed in second chances, this will break your heart and put it back together again. In the farthest corner of an overcrowded animal shelter in Michigan, there was one cage that every worker, volunteer, and visitor instinctively avoided. The heavy metal door was covered with warning signs. Danger, do not approach, aggressive, dog inside, and staff only beyond this point. Inside that cage sat a German Shepherd named Shadow. He was large, powerful, and radiated an energy that made even experienced handlers stop in their tracks. His deep, guttural growl echoed like thunder, and his eyes, cold, wild, and haunted, pierced through anyone who dared look at him for too long. Shadow had become infamous around the shelter. Stories whispered through the halls like legends. Seasoned dog trainers walking away with bites, volunteers trembling after a single attempt to offer food, and even animal behaviorists calling him a lost cause. He wouldn't let anyone near. Not for treats, not for toys, not for kindness. Just a warning growl and sometimes worse. He was no longer seen as a rescue. He was seen as a risk, a dangerous animal, a mistake no one wanted to make. Days turned into weeks and then months. Shadow remained in that cage, snarling at the world, alone and forgotten. Most of the staff had quietly accepted that he'd never leave that shelter alive. But fate had a different plan. On a chilly, rain-soaked afternoon, a man stepped into the shelter holding the hand of a small girl. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her name was Lily. Lily wasn't bouncing with excitement the way most kids did when looking for a pet. She wasn't skipping past cages, pointing at puppies, or giggling at wagging tails. She walked slowly, her hand tight in her father's, eyes scanning the rows of barking dogs as if searching for something or someone. And then she stopped. Her tiny frame stood frozen in front of Shadow's cage. Her father quickly tugged at her hand. "Not that one, sweetheart," he said softly. "He's not safe," but Lily didn't move. She didn't speak. She simply stared into the cage where Shadow sat, his eyes burning with the same warning that had frightened everyone else. Only this time, he didn't growl. He just looked back, silent, still. Lily slowly knelt in front of the cage and gently placed her small palm against the cold bars. She didn't say a word. She didn't flinch, and unbelievably, Shadow didn't snap. He didn't lunge. He simply watched her, his body tense but unmoving. The shelter staff noticed. They held their breath. Some of them were ready to rush in, but nothing happened. In that strange, quiet moment, something changed, something that no one could quite explain. It was like two lost souls, one human, one canine, recognized the broken pieces in each other. From that day on, Lily begged to come back. Every single afternoon after school, rain or shine, she returned to that cage. Her father, initially cautious, gave in after seeing her determination. The shelter staff allowed it under strict supervision, and even set up a small chair a few feet from Shadow's cage. Lily never complained about the distance. She would sit for hours with her feet swinging beneath the chair, softly humming tunes, reading storybooks aloud, or just chatting with Shadow about her day, what she learned in school, what her mom made for dinner, what she dreamed about the night before. Shadow listened. He didn't move at first, but he listened. And slowly, something inside him began to shift. His ears stopped pinning back with tension every time someone entered the room. The growling faded. The rigidity in his muscles softened. The fire in his eyes gave way to something gentler, curiosity maybe, or hope. Then came the moment that left everyone in awe. One Thursday afternoon, Lily accidentally dropped a small stuffed animal from her lap. It rolled across the floor and landed near Shadow's cage. Every adult in the room froze, expecting the worst. Shadow got up. He walked, slowly, carefully, to the front of the cage. He sniffed the toy. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He just looked at it, then looked at Lily. And Lily? She just smiled. That tiny exchange became the first sign of something truly extraordinary. Trust. That weekend, Lily came in early, clutching a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. She sat in her usual spot and began to eat quietly. Then, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes, she tore off a small piece of bread and gently placed it near the front of Shadow's cage. Shadow stared at it, then at her, then back at the food. Minutes passed, like hours. The room was so silent you could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Then, Shadow moved. He stepped forward, slowly, almost like it hurt him to do it, and cautiously took the piece of bread. His jaws closed gently around it. Lily didn't say a word. She just offered another piece. This time, she placed it just inside the bars with her open hand resting on the ground. This time, Shadow hesitated longer. His body trembled. His breath was sharp and fast, but then he reached out, and ever so gently he took the food from her palm. People cried that day. Actual tears. Shelter staff, some of whom had stopped believing in miracles long ago, stood in stunned silence. They weren't watching a dog take a snack, they were witnessing a wall come down. A wall made of fear, pain, and years of abuse. From then on, everything changed. Shadow began greeting Lily with a soft whimper each time she arrived. He started sitting by the bars, waiting for her stories. He would wag his tail, slow and unsure, like he was remembering what it meant to be happy. Lily brought him toys, rolled balls toward his cage, and sometimes read him bedtime stories when it was time to leave. One day, Shadow pushed the ball back to her. Another day, he let out a soft bark, not aggressive but playful. Soon Lily's visits became the highlight of the shelter. The angry, unpredictable German shepherd that no one dared to touch was now melting under the gentle love of a child. Even the shelter manager, a woman who'd worked with troubled dogs for decades, admitted she'd never seen anything like it. That dog, he was broken, she whispered one morning, wiping away a tear as Shadow lay calmly beside Lily's chair. But she fixed him. As Shadow began to change, so did the shelter's perception of him. He was no longer seen as the aggressive monster locked behind bars. He was something else now, a wounded spirit slowly learning how to trust again. Lily's parents noticed too. They saw how her face lit up when she talked about him, how she rushed through homework just to have time for her visits. They saw how she spoke to him as if he were already part of the family. So they spoke with the shelter director. After several meetings, paperwork, and countless conversations about safety, training, and rehabilitation, the shelter staff cautiously agreed to let Shadow spend time outside the cage, but only during Lily's visits and only in a secured area. The first time it happened, everyone watched nervously. The shelter team led Shadow, leashed and muzzled, into a quiet, fenced yard. Lily was already there, sitting on a bench with a pouch of treats in her hand and her heart racing. She didn't flinch as Shadow approached. She just waited. Shadow stood a few feet away, eyes scanning, unsure. The grass under his paws, the open sky above. It all felt foreign. But Lily's voice, calm and steady, guided him forward. "Hey, buddy," she whispered. "It's okay. You're safe." She tossed him a treat. He sniffed it. Then he ate it. A few minutes passed. Then Shadow slowly, almost fearfully, walked over to Lily's bench. He looked at her, then at the space beside her, and then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, he laid down. His massive head rested on her lap. Lily's tiny fingers ran gently through his coarse fur. The muzzle was removed after a few visits. It was clear now. He wasn't just tolerating her. He trusted her. After weeks of monitored outdoor visits, a decision was made. Lily's parents sat down once more with the shelter director, this time with a different purpose. They wanted to adopt Shadow. The process wasn't easy. Background checks, home evaluations, in-depth training sessions with professionals. It all took time. But through it all, Lily remained hopeful. Every day she visited him, she reminded him quietly, "We're going to take you home soon, I promise." And finally the day came. The staff gathered around the lobby as the adoption papers were signed. There were hugs, a few nervous laughs, and more than a few tears. Shadow, once deemed unadoptable, unfixable, and unworthy, was walking out the front doors of the shelter as part of a family. He didn't pull on the leash. He didn't growl or panic. He walked calmly beside Lily, his tail wagging gently, his eyes soft, like he knew this was the beginning of something new. Shadow's first day at his new home was filled with wonder. He explored every room slowly, taking in the smells and sounds of this unfamiliar world. At first, he stuck close to Lily, almost as if afraid she might disappear, but her presence reassured him. Lily showed him the backyard where he stood stiffly for a while before rolling in the grass for the first time in years. She gave him a cozy bed in her room, even though he preferred sleeping right beside her. He learned the rhythms of their home, the sound of the dishwasher humming, the buzz of the TV, the creak of the hallway at night, and most importantly, he learned what it meant to feel safe. There were setbacks, of course. Shadow would still flinch at sudden movements. Loud noises made him tremble. Sometimes, during thunderstorms, he would hide under the kitchen table, eyes wide and body shaking. But Lily never left his side. She would crawl under there with him, wrap her arms around his neck, and whisper, "It's okay. You're not alone anymore." And little by little, those moments grew fewer and farther between. Shadow was healing, but he wasn't the only one. Lily had always been a quiet child, a bit shy, the kind of girl who got lost in books more easily than in conversation. But with Shadow by her side, something blossomed inside her. She became more confident. She began speaking more in class. She made friends who came over just to meet the big dog with the gentle eyes. Her teachers noticed it. Her parents noticed it. Shadow gave Lily the courage to be herself. And Lily gave Shadow the love to feel whole. They were inseparable. They celebrated birthdays together. Halloween costumes became a tradition. Shadow as a lion, then a firefighter, then a knight in shining armor. On Christmas, he wore a red scarf and opened his own presents. Photos of him with Lily covered the refrigerator, the mantel, and even the local vet's office. He was no longer a story of pain. He was a story of hope. News of Shadow's transformation began to spread. The shelter posted a short video about his journey on social media. It showed snippets, the warning signs on his old cage, the first time. He touched Lily's hand the moment he walked out of the shelter door with her beside him. It went viral. People were moved, some to tears. Others reached out asking how they could help animals like Shadow. Donations poured into the shelter, volunteers signed up, and more importantly, other dogs with troubled pasts started getting second chances. The shelter changed its motto to, "No heart is too broken to heal." And in a framed photo by the front desk, a little girl sits in the grass holding a German shepherd who once knew nothing but fear, and now knew nothing but love. Years passed. Shadow grew older, his black fur sprinkled with gray, his steps a little slower. But his spirit remained strong, especially when Lily was near. They grew together, through elementary school, middle school, and into high school. When Lily faced tough days, Shadow was there. When she celebrated victories, he was there too. He watched her learn to ride a bike, then drive a car. He was there for heartbreaks, for laughter, for every late-night talk when the world felt overwhelming. And one summer evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon and the house glowed in warm light, Lily curled up beside him on the porch. "You saved me too, you know," she whispered into his ear, Shadow leaned against her and let out a soft sigh. His body relaxed, his eyes half closed. He was home. He was loved. He was finally free. Time, as it always does, moved on. Shadow, once the fierce, broken dog behind a warning sign, had become a fixture in the family's life. But as he aged, the signs were impossible to miss. The way he no longer ran to the door when Lily came home, how his legs trembled on cold mornings, the deep lingering sighs as he lay on his bed, and yet he never let go of her. Even when walking became painful, Shadow would still follow Lily from room to room. When she studied, he rested at her feet. When she felt overwhelmed, he laid his head on her lap. He never stopped watching over her. He never stopped loving her. Then one morning, Lily found him by the window, lying peacefully with the early light shining on his face. His breathing was shallow. His eyes, though tired, still searched for her. She knelt beside him and stroked his fur. "I'm here," she whispered, tears already forming. "You don't have to be strong anymore." The vet came to the house that afternoon. The family gathered around him, Lily, her parents, even the neighbors who had come to love him too. Lily held him close as he took his last breath, her arms wrapped around the same creature the world once gave up on. "You're safe now, Shadow," she whispered through tears. "You'll always be safe." He slipped away in her arms. Loved, cherished, free. Shadow's passing left a silence in the house that felt heavy. His bed remained in the corner of Lily's room for weeks. His collar hung near the door. For days, Lily couldn't walk past the porch without thinking of him lying there, soaking in the afternoon sun. But slowly, the grief began to bloom into something else: gratitude. She remembered the first time he looked at her without growling. She remembered the yard visits, his first tail wag, the moment he rested his head in her lap. She remembered not just what he had been, but what he became. Shadow wasn't just a rescue, he was a teacher. He taught patience. He taught forgiveness. He taught Lily how love could heal even the deepest wounds. And in his own way, he taught the entire community that no creature is too far gone. A few weeks after Shadow passed, Lily sat at her desk, now older, stronger, and full of memories. She pulled out a notebook and began to write a letter. Not for anyone else, but for him. "Dear Shadow," it began. "I don't know where to begin. I still look for you in the hallway. I still pause when I come through the door, waiting for that thump of your tail. The house is quiet without you. I miss you. I miss everything about you, your stubbornness, your loyalty, your big warm eyes. But I want to thank you. Thank you for choosing me, for trusting me, for being my best friend when I needed one the most. Thank you for teaching me how to be brave. For letting me love you even when you didn't know how to love yourself. You changed me, and you changed so many others. I'll carry you in my heart forever. Love, always and always, Lily." She folded the note and placed it in the photo album that held every memory of him. His first day home, his birthday parties, their Halloween costumes, that last afternoon on the porch. Shadow's story didn't end with his passing. Because of him, Lily began volunteering at the shelter where they first met. She spent weekends reading to nervous dogs just as she once did with him. She sat by their cages, offered quiet companionship, and whispered, "It's okay. You're safe now." And the dogs responded, not all of them, but many. And that was enough. She began fostering dogs, especially the ones labeled difficult, unadoptable, or aggressive. She knew what those labels meant, and she knew they weren't always true. Some were just scared. Some were hurting. Some had never known a kind hand. But Lily knew better. She gave them patience. She gave them love. She gave them what Shadow had once given her: a second chance. Years passed. Lily went off to college, majoring in veterinary medicine with a focus on animal rehabilitation. Every essay she wrote, every presentation she gave, came back to Shadow. His photo lived on her dorm desk, next to a quote she scribbled on a sticky note. No heart is too broken to heal. One day, during a visit home, she stopped by the same shelter. Much had changed, new paint, new staff, but the spirit of the place was the same. One of the older staff members who had been there when Shadow was still behind bars recognized her. "You were the girl," she said, "the one who saved him." Lily smiled. "No," she said softly. "He saved me." The woman nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. There, in the lobby, was a framed photo. A little girl and a German shepherd, noses touching, eyes closed in silent understanding. Underneath, it read, "In memory of Shadow, the dog who reminded us that healing takes time, love, and one brave heart." Stories like Shadow's aren't always the ones people hear first. They're messy, they're slow, they're filled with fear, setbacks, and uncertainty. But they are real, and they are beautiful, because in the end, they're not about fixing what's broken. They're about seeing what's still worth saving. Shadow wasn't a bad dog. He was a hurt one, and Lily wasn't just a little girl. She was a miracle. Their story didn't begin with joy. It began with pain, fear, and caution. Tape. But it ended with love. It ended with understanding. It ended with family. So wherever you are, if you've ever felt like giving up on someone, on yourself, on a creature the world has forgotten, remember Shadow. Remember that sometimes the fiercest growl hides the softest heart, and sometimes it takes just one person to see through the noise and whisper, "You're safe now."